Has Andrew Tate tainted us all for the last time? Let's find out.
Next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Just this past week, tons of new developments have happened with Andrew Tate, including him getting banned from multiple social media platforms, basically going the way of Alex Jones, which makes sense because he's peddling conspiracy theories on par with turning the frogs gay. Although, actually, from what I've heard, the theory about the turning the frogs gay is surprisingly way more accurate than almost anything that's ever come out of Andrew Tate's mouth. So, as a result, he's gotten banned from a lot of social media platforms and has shut down Hustlers University. Last week on my channel, we talked about Andrew Tate, the serial misogynist, the guy who is proud of the fact that he doesn't believe women deserve equal rights, the guy who created a PhD program, and PhD standing for Pimps and Hoes degree or something like that, where he talks about pickup artistry, the manosphere, basically anything you'd see your run-of-the-mill red pillar incel type saying. That's what Andrew Tate was saying.
What are you doing today? Oh, I have to go to work today. Oh, that sounds fun. How the fuck are you gonna get rich if you're doing that shit? You ain't got time.
And he seemed to have the muscle mass to back it up, probably being why he took off so much over the past couple months, because, I mean, if you want to get super strong and ripped and be a traditionally masculine man, you can look at Jordan Peterson's scrawny ass, or you can look at someone like Andrew Tate and say, I mean, he could take pretty much any of us in the fight, so. But as a result of that, complaints from high school teachers about teenage boys having bad influences from someone like Andrew Tate, combined with the slew of criticism against him and his recent ban from social media platforms, has potentially caused him to shut down his MLM style pyramid scheme called Hustlers University, which we covered a couple weeks ago on this channel. I personally think it's basically an MLM. He calls it affiliate marketing. It definitely has multiple levels if you're asking me personally. You can watch that video that I put up a couple weeks ago, but it looks like that scheme is now being shut down. So let's take a look at everything that happened and let's talk about it.
Get you some nuts.
There was lots of memes.
Makes me wonder if I should take up lesbianism.
Chicago.
You guys asked for it.
What's up, my fellow small business supporters? I'm Savvy, and welcome back to Savvy Writes Books, the channel where we talk about books and business. I have never reviewed a book by Andrew Tate, however, my friend Rachel Oates did recently, so check out that video on her channel. I didn't even know he had a book. I don't know if I can put myself through that much for you guys. Like, I'll suffer for you guys, but that's quite a lot, I've got to say. If you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe because multiple times a week I put out new videos all about books and business, and while you're at it, don't forget to ring the notification bell so that you'll get notified whenever new videos go up. And if you enjoy listening to me talk about topics like these, then please check out my second channel, Your Morning Guru, also linked in the description below, which is where every weekday morning at 7 a.m. Central, we talk about similar topics, but on a live stream format where we all get to participate in the chat together, and it's very fun. We even did a whole week on Andrew Tate. That was fun. We got some rude comments from his fans. One fan said, he lives in your head rent-free, and RK had the best response. He said, you live with your mom rent-free, and I was like, I also live with your mom rent-free. That's not true. I pay your mom with sex.
Give me some fin. Noggin. Dude.
All right, let's talk about Andrew Tate. The first thing I was really interested in is the fact that supposedly teachers were having a massive problem with teenage boys in their classes being too influenced by Andrew Tate to the point where it was turning them into massive assholes.
Eat my shorts.
So let's find out what happened. All right, this is from the UK website iNews, and it says, teachers urged to listen for manosphere talk in school corridors amid misogynistic social media trends. Charities have voiced concerns after misogynistic and homophobic content creator Andrew Tate blew up on social media over the summer holidays. Y'all, I think the funniest thing is how people have been calling him Andrew Taint. I guess I, too, have a teenage boy's sense of humor. Maybe I could have been roped in by Andrew Tate if I were a few years younger. But, Taint, that's funny. Anyway, let's continue. Teachers are being urged to listen to what children are talking about in school corridors and be aware of terms such as manosphere to counter sexist social media trends which pupils may have been exposed to over the summer holidays. School professionals and child safety charities have voiced concern as videos of misogynistic content creator Andrew Tate have been viewed by millions of social media users over the 6-week break. The former professional kickboxer and Big Brother contestant has become a major internet celebrity in 2022, with the hashtag Andrew Tate hashtag gaining over 12.7 billion views on TikTok. Yeah, this dude blew up on TikTok, and if you remember what we talked about the other week, I think a part of that very well could have been the fact that part of his Hustlers University course was telling people to share content of him, because one of the ways to make money from Hustlers University was from selling the affiliate code to other people and making a commission on that. So you were encouraged to sell the program to other people. Selling programs all the way down sounds a little bit triangular shaped to me, but that's just me. Anyway, I think that could have been a way that he really got a lot of attention online. He was encouraging his students to share content of him to profit off of it. Last week, Tate was banned from Facebook and Instagram for violating parent company Meta's policies on dangerous organizations and individuals. He does not have a TikTok account himself, but his various fan accounts on the app have hundreds of thousands of followers. In one video during which he was interviewed by another YouTuber, he said he was absolutely a misogynist, adding, "I'm a realist, and when you're realist, you're sexist. There's no way you can be rooted in reality and not be sexist." Which is just wild to me. A lot of the stuff he says he doesn't back up whatsoever. You guys know how I feel about Hassan. I've talked about it before. I think he's funny sometimes, but I'm jealous that more women are attracted to him than me. But when it comes to Hassan, I will say he did a good job in that debate against Andrew Tate. He just basically kept prompting him, cite your source, bro. Cite your source. Where did you get this source from? And Andrew Tate just basically kept saying, "Where are the turtles?" My sources trust me, bro. My source is that that's what I've experienced, and there's no source other than what we perceive in life. And it just kept going around in circles like that. So basically, don't expect Andrew Tate to back up any of his claims. He speaks confidently, and he's fucking jacked. And that's all you need to know. In the same video, he called women intrinsically lazy and said there is no such thing as an independent female. The National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children has called for teachers to ensure pupils feel comfortable and confident sharing concerns about the online world, but said responsibility also lies within the government in delivering the online safety bill in full without delay. Now, this is UK related stuff. I don't have any understanding of European politics whatsoever, so I am not going to comment on the internet being legislated in Europe. I've never lived there. I don't feel comfortable commenting on that.
I expect all you fuckers to pay attention and be impressed.
Secondary school English teacher Kirsty Pohl, 34, from I can't pronounce something that British, I'm so sorry, is calling for school staff to listen out for potentially problematic discussions that go on outside of lesson time and to engage students in non-confrontation conversations about what they see online. I completely agree. I think that as a teacher, one of the most helpful things you can do is to engage students in discussions, get them to share their views, and get them to challenge their views with each other. That's very helpful for critical thinking, especially when they're becoming teenagers and their brains are starting to develop a little more, but they haven't fully developed all the way there yet. I absolutely think that that's a fantastic idea. The single best thing that I think both teachers and parents can do is be aware and listen to what's going on. I would agree with that as well. I think it's very easy for people who are one generation older than the current generation of teenagers to be a little disconnected from their version of what's cool at the time, whether that is when I was a teenager, that's when social media was first starting. That's when we'd had the MySpace stuff going on. Facebook really took off when I was towards the end of high school and things like that. And a lot of parents and teachers, so they sometimes had accounts, but they didn't really know how they worked and things like that. So having either they were so ignorant of it that kids were like being wildly dangerous on it and they had no idea, or they were so afraid of it that they were trying to ban kids from being on it whatsoever. Neither of those approaches are healthy. I think people need to have an understanding of the ways the world is changing and the ways that technology is changing so that they can have an educated perspective on what's going to be safest, not an over-the-top, overprotective fear-mongering stance, and not a completely ignorant, I have no idea what's going on, so I'm going to put my kids in danger and have no idea kind of stance either. It needs to be more educated than that. I completely agree. I completely agree with this teacher statement here saying we have to work together to help them navigate social media because it is never ending, explaining that children can no longer switch off from school when they get home because they are constantly interacting with social media. And that's become even more true as things have become virtual during the pandemic, and schools have now, even though schools are back in person for the most part, a lot of them have implemented elements of online learning as well as a tool for education. And that can be wonderful, but it's also something that adults need to fully understand. I thought this one was interesting as well. This is just from last week, from August 18th, 2022. High school teacher slams Andrew Tate for ruining freshman class. Let's see what's going on here. This is a very poor Photoshop job. I don't know if this was meant to be a meme or what. Now with the school year starting, teachers are claiming Tate's young audience has been causing trouble in the classroom. So the previous article talked about teachers saying, let's watch out for Andrew Tate, but it didn't really cite any specific examples of why teachers are a little bit suspicious of him. I think this one goes a little more into what has been happening. And this one I think also focuses a little bit on the US, whereas the other one was more UK specific. The school year has just recently begun in the US, and sadly children have apparently picked up some bad habits over the summer thanks to the likes of Andrew Tate. So this is a teacher who spoke up on Reddit. I'm not sure how to pronounce their username, but according to this teacher, freshman pupils are making misogynistic claims in class. So far, the teacher has spoken to 6 families about the bad behavior already this school year. Have y'all heard of a sexist, misogynistic, disgusting excuse of a human being known as Andrew Tate? Well, I promise you all your middle school and high school boys have, and they're addicted to his content, the teacher wrote in a Reddit thread on August 17th. Just this week, I had to have 6 convos with families about their sons saying shit like women are inferior to men and women belong in the kitchen. The teacher continued to explain how students even refused to complete their assignments if it was sourced from a woman. Additionally, 3 male students apparently refused to read an article from a female author because women should only be housewives. Now, I can't tell if this is Andrew Tate having a legitimate influence on these kids or if this is kids doing whatever they can to get out of schoolwork. I've been a teacher and I was a middle school student during the era of edgelord humor in the early 2000s. I've talked about this before. If you remember what internet humor was like in 2003, 2004, 2005, those type of years before MySpace was even taking off, back during the live journal days and all that. I wasn't really on social media much during those eras because I was a younger kid, 12 years old or so. During those times though, edgy humor was what was popular. And that's not to say that that humor is acceptable or that that humor is polite or kind in any way, but it's to say that when people said a lot of shockingly offensive things during this time, a lot of times they didn't really mean it and they were just saying it because it was considered funny to get a rise out of someone. I mean, we could absolutely say that's not funny, that's just bullying, which is an absolutely valid assessment of the situation to make, but it is to say that a lot of people who said those things didn't really believe them. So I remember being that age in that era, and I'm wondering if these students are saying these things because they know that, one, it's a way to get shock humor out of something. And from my time as a teacher within the past 10 years and my time as a student 20 years ago when edgelord humor was first taking off, I can very well see emotionally immature middle schoolers saying things like this as a way to, one, get a rise out of people as like, wow, can you believe he just said that? That was so shocking, and having that be the humor of it. Again, it's not really funny, it's bullying, but to a middle schooler whose brain isn't fully developed yet, you can often confuse those things. And second of all, just a way to try to get out of an assignment. When I was teaching middle schoolers, they'll say anything to try to get out of doing their work. They'll say absolutely ridiculous stuff, and sometimes it is just parroting things they said around them, but I'm wondering if they truly believe that women are inferior, or if they're just like, oh dude, I wonder if we can say this, it'll get a rise out of everyone, and also maybe if we push it hard enough, they won't make us do the assignment. That was my first thought as someone who has taught middle schoolers. That's kind of where their brains are a lot of the time. However, my other thought is that's probably making women teachers and also girls in the class feel wildly uncomfortable, and because of that, it is completely unacceptable. And if Andrew Tate has been causing this type of behavior to increase, that's absolutely unacceptable as well. And I'm guessing from this teacher's perspective, this particular teacher has seen students increase this particular type of behavior since the rise of Andrew Tate. So perhaps she's comparing it to students last year who didn't act this way quite as much, and now after watching Andrew Tate, they're starting to act a little bit more like a-holes in the classroom, which is not a good environment for education. As a teacher, one of your goals is to make sure that your students are growing up to not just be smart and well educated and know a lot of facts about history and science and math and whatever, but also how to be good people, how to socialize with others in a way that is empathetic and kind. So I can absolutely see how this is causing a lot of issues. Well, out of the 6 parents the teacher had spoken with, 5 of them were mothers who were absolutely mortified by their child's behavior. The last parent, which was the father, said, well, he isn't wrong about the inexcusable comments in class. Wait, so the father said, well, he isn't wrong about Andrew Tate? So the dad was an Andrew Tate fan too? Like, oh, well, Andrew Tate isn't wrong. Dude, you know how a lot of times when you have students who are displaying an antisocial behavior of some sort, whether that's being violent or being disruptive, a lot of times when you see their parents have modeled that behavior for them, because where else are kids gonna learn it, right? So that makes me a little worried for this kid whose father seems to also be an Andrew Tate fan. Oh my god. The weirdest part about this to me is that an Andrew Tate fan has reproduced. An Andrew Tate fan has gotten a woman to have sex with him to have this child in the first place. It's been only 2 weeks of school and these young boys are losing it. I've never heard such vitriol from young boys since this Andrew Tate guy came on the scene, the teacher claimed. This rise of incel and misogynistic rhetoric is terrifying. I completely agree. And it's pretty horrifying to see how he is directly impacting a younger generation. Recently, TikTok has confirmed that it will be clamping down on misogyny and other hateful ideologies after an investigation revealed just how much content that violates guidelines is being promoted. So as we're going to see in a moment, Andrew Tate actually ended up suffering consequences on a lot of these social media sites because of that. But I think that this really goes to show that when people talk about Andrew Tate is a dick, but he's harmless. When we're seeing now that more and more kids, especially kids who are in middle school and high school, kids who are at that very impressionable age, but are fully immersed in the culture of social media, he's having that impact on them. And that's probably what's scariest of all, because I guess as a grown adult man, you can look at someone like Andrew Tate and be like, okay, he's kind of ridiculous, but maybe I can just laugh at him and use him as someone to laugh at. But he is having a legitimate effect on kids, and teachers are seeing it. It's disrupting the classroom. I can see how this problem has gotten way out of hand at this point, and why some of these social media sites are like, okay, let's take some action against this dude. Now we're going to talk about what happened to Andrew Tate on social media, and we will have a brief discussion about the ethics of the concept of deplatforming. However, we're not going to go too deep into it because I might want to do a whole video just on that topic in the future, because within the concept of platforming versus deplatforming, there's so much to unpack just like philosophically that it might take forever to go into, but we'll talk about it a little bit. All right, here's the Washington Post from, at the time I'm filming this, just a couple days ago, August 21st. TikTok and Meta ban self-described misogynist Andrew Tate. I think that's kind of fun that they can call him a misogynist, because like in an article for one of these type of publications, you can't really editorialize, so the author of the article saying he's a misogynist, that would look like biased journalism. But since Andrew Tate calls himself a misogynist, they're just quoting him at that point. That's kind of funny.
What a sad story.
In videos splashed across the internet, Andrew Tate, a one-time kickboxing champion turned self-styled men's health guru, has argued that women are the property of their husbands and should have kids, sit at home, be quiet, and make coffee. I do make coffee. I'm not good at being quiet or at having kids. All women are the property of their husbands. All they know is have kids, sit at home, be quiet, make coffee, eat hot chip, and lie. He has claimed that he needs authority over the women he dates, saying you can't be responsible for a dog if it doesn't obey you. See, this is just so gross the way he objectifies women. He said he would attack a woman who accused him of cheating and described himself as absolutely a misogynist. His fans have called him the king of toxic masculinity. So this is interesting, the way that the term toxic masculinity is being used here, because a lot of times toxic masculinity is a term that often came up in the feminism sphere as this idea that a lot of men are given these social cues telling them to hide their emotions, to suppress their emotions, and to only show their emotions through anger and rage and things like that. I can get why the term has been divisive over the years, because a lot of men who are not part of the feminist movement have pushed back on that, saying, well, that's not really fair to call masculinity toxic. And then a lot of people were saying, well, we're not calling masculinity toxic. We're saying that this is a version of masculinity that uses the worst parts and the worst stereotypes of it as a way to hurt other people. Kind of like we could say about toxic positivity or something like that. And I mean, I guess you could absolutely talk about toxic femininity as well if you are using feminine norms as a way to hurt other people. That's, that's weaponized, like white women femininity is something we've seen on the internet being talked about, where like sometimes women will use crying as like a manipulative way to get out of hurting someone else, specifically if it's like a racial interaction. That's been a thing we've seen a lot of on Twitter, specifically with like, I don't know if Barbecue Becky was one of them, but there were all these like whatever Karen, whatever Becky, all these different women that were named after controversies that got recorded on phones. So I guess that could be an example of toxic femininity, but there's also often a racial component to that as well, so there's not usually just the toxic femininity angle. But my point is, it's not to say that all masculinity is toxic. However, at the same time, if the term isn't conveying that properly, I completely understand why some people wouldn't be on board with it. What I think is interesting is that Andrew Tate's fans have taken a term that has been divisive in the past and said, you know what, we're going to reclaim this and say we actually think toxic masculinity is a good thing. We like it. We like being toxically masculine. I think that's interesting. Not necessarily in a good way, but it's interesting to study. Tate's content has rapidly spread across social media this summer, racking up millions of views and raising concerns about the impact on boys and young men who come across it. Now, Tate has been barred from TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. In a statement to the Washington Post, a TikTok representative said Tate's account was removed for violating the company's policies that bar content that attacks, threatens, incites violence against, or otherwise dehumanizes an individual or a group based on attributes including sex. Meta said it has removed Tate's official accounts on Facebook and Instagram, pointing to policies against dangerous organizations and individuals. Now, if you watched the week we did on Andrew Tate on Your Morning Guru, one of the days that we covered him, we talked about Andrew Tate versus Coffeezilla. And that was actually one of our streams that got the most views, and it got the most Andrew Tate fans leaving us hilarious comments about why they think we suck or whatever. I don't know, we had good comebacks. I'm proud of us. Anyway, I thought it was interesting seeing Coffeezilla, who's a YouTuber that I really do like because he calls out MLM companies, crypto scams, Ponzi schemes, NFT scams, things like that a lot, similar to what I talk about here usually. So I really respect his channel and his work, and I thought it was interesting when he too was calling out Andrew Tate for his Hustlers University, all his scamming and things like that. In the wake of Andrew Tate being banned from social media, we saw this tweet from Coffeezilla, which I found interesting. So full disclosure, I did like this tweet, but my feelings on it are mixed, and we're going to talk about that right now because my feelings on almost everything are mixed. That's why I talk about things on a channel instead of just tweeting all day, eating hot chip and lying. Okay, so this was a screenshot of this article talking about Andrew Tate being banned from Facebook and Instagram, and Coffeezilla tweeted about this saying, I dislike Tate, but kids are gonna grow up thinking their only weapon against stupid ideas is deplatforming. I liked this tweet because I agree in some cases, and I disagree in others, and for the most part I'm not sure, but I like seeing the discussion happening, so I wanted to boost the discussion. You guys know how I am. Before we get into the brief discussion on deplatforming, I want to make something very clear. Every time the concept of deplatforming comes around, someone brings up the concept of free speech.
What? Arresting me for what? I'm not allowed to stand up for myself? I thought this was America. Huh? Isn't this America? I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
This is definitely not a free speech issue. One, because Andrew Tate does not live in the US. He lives in Romania, and I believe he's also a British citizen. Andrew Tate is not American. So when sometimes people bring up this whole, we've got the First Amendment though, we have free speech, none of this is taking place in the US, which is one of the few countries that I believe does have a specific thing in our constitution stating that no law can be made prohibiting freedom of speech and things like that. In Canada, they have similar things about freedom of expression, which is a little more loosely defined. They have different things in different countries. The UK doesn't have as much guaranteed freedom of speech as we do here because you are allowed to get in legal trouble for things being grossly offensive in certain cases. Don't quote me on any of this. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just going by what I've seen online. So I just don't want anyone to get into this being like, oh, but this is a freedom of speech thing. It's not only because Andrew Tate is not American, but also because social media companies are private companies. Meta, which runs Facebook and Instagram, that's a private company. It's not affiliated with the government. Someone in the US getting banned from one of those social media platforms, like Alex Jones, for example, he got banned from a lot of those things, but that doesn't mean that he got in any legal trouble. Therefore, it doesn't violate freedom of speech because he wasn't in trouble with the law. However, you could also come at this from the angle of, okay, yes, you don't get in trouble with the law, but these social media platforms have an extreme amount of power to direct overall discourse, overall cultural and social discourse. People have talked about the new town square or whatever. Is social media the new town square, especially in the age of a pandemic? Things like that. And in that case, should it be run by private companies? Again, that's a whole discussion that's separate from all of this. That's just to say, legally, freedom of speech is not involved at all here. We can have discussions about whether large corporations have too much power to direct overall public discourse, which in general, I think big corporations have too much power in general. There should be companies that can easily start up to compete with something on the level of Facebook or Instagram, and there aren't. And I don't know if antitrust laws need to come into effect here, but regardless of all of that, Andrew Tate was banned from it, and it was perfectly legal and fine for that to happen. Now, I want to discuss this tweet a little bit. Kids are going to grow up thinking their only weapon against stupid ideas is deplatforming. To an extent, I agree with that. I think that it can be a little bit harmful to assume that if someone is spreading awful ideas, the first thing we need to do is get rid of them rather than learning to challenge them in the moment. At the same time, Andrew Tate was posing a direct threat to kids in the sense that he was indoctrinating kids with these awful ideas that were making it hard for them to get an education, that were making it so that they were saying things that were potentially making the girls in their classes feel uncomfortable and affecting their education, and that's not necessarily fair either. When it comes to deplatforming, I think that in this situation, we're seeing more net good than harm being done by getting rid of Andrew Tate. Now, in the past, I've also wondered, and when I talked about, I did my video a few years ago about, is Donald Trump a cult leader? And in that video, I posted that video right after he got banned from Twitter at the beginning of 2021. And in that video, I talked about, okay, it seems good that Donald Trump is banned from Twitter because he was using Twitter to incite violence. He was using Twitter to do all of these awful things. But on the other side of the same coin, is it going to do more harm than good if he tries to paint himself as a martyr, of some type of free speech martyr to his fans, and then goes ahead and starts his own social media where his fans go and congregate and plot against the rest of us without the rest of us seeing? Isn't it better to have it all in public in the same place so that we can all argue against it rather than having people split off into these factions that don't communicate with each other? So then when people have these wild conspiracy theory ideas, it hits us as a complete surprise. I don't know. I think that this is a complex issue, and I'm curious what people have to say. I think for the most part, when someone gets deplatformed, they don't usually end up starting their own platform, building their own company from the ground up. Usually it does just kind of help the ideas not circulate so much. But part of me wonders, now that Andrew Tate has put these ideas out there into the world and people have gotten into them, with him being taken off of these platforms, will these teenage boys step back and say, okay, now that I'm not being bombarded with his rhetoric nonstop, maybe I can take a step back and say, ooh, that was a little silly. The fact that I was following him so much, oh, that was cringe. That's my cringy past now. And learn to grow up into better people, which is what I'm hoping for. But then there's always that worry I have partially that's or will they see Andrew Tate as this martyr, as this guy who's the victim in all of this, and start following more and more people like that, seeking out more people like him, going deeper into that type of thinking and closing themselves off from everything else until they're in a complete misogyny cult. I don't know, and that's why I'm a little torn. I want to say Andrew Tate being banned is a good thing because, again, I think it was completely unfair the way that girls' education would have been interrupted by boys in class being disruptive and saying misogynistic things that derail the lesson and things like that. At the same time, there's a part of me that's is it going to make people dig their heels in further? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, because this is a debate that constantly goes back and forth in my brain. I don't know which one happens more historically. Sometimes I feel like Trump's fans are stronger than ever now, and I'm is Andrew Tate gonna go in that direction? I don't know. Then there were some replies to Coffeezilla's tweet that have a discussion about it. One person saying, first, let me say I love and appreciate you, dude, but I fear sometimes it's impossible for counter voice to someone like Tate to spread the way his messages did, and Lord knows he was shitposting. He knew what he was doing. You couldn't talk him out of it, so what then? And that's the thing, is was Coffeezilla... I get this way too. I get it, because I get this way too. I get very hopeful when I'm oh, it is possible to convince people of things. It is possible to just reason with someone, and that's why I end up wasting so much time on Twitter getting in arguments with everyone, because I just assume everyone's willing to argue in good faith, right? No, that's not true. I end up in these arguments where people really aren't willing to argue in good faith. And maybe that is just me being idealistic, thinking that with a level of education and counterpoint and research, these kids will be able to learn how to effectively argue against points like Andrew Tate's. But that may just be very naive and way too hopeful of me to think that. And sometimes I get stuck in utopia brain. I don't know. And so this dude here might be totally right that Andrew Tate's ideas spread quickly and that someone else's ideas maybe that would counter them wouldn't be able to keep up, that Andrew Tate's popularity would just steamroll them. And maybe because of that, it is good that he's taken off, at the very least for a little while, so that people can educate others on why he's wrong without him just constantly steamrolling over everyone. There's a response here saying, I just replied to the convo I had with my son. Problem is we're completely bypassing other message. The concern is the message he's spreading. This just makes him a martyr like Trump. Why don't we intervene? And then it looks like the post he originally put was, I'm not worried about him. I asked my son if he heard of Tate because kids are parroting his bullshit to female teachers. Then I talked to my kid about it. It's really not hard, but people would rather just silence idiots. So yeah, is the solution here maybe encouraging parents to have more discussions with their children? Absolutely. But then again, how much of that can firmly be expected? Then we get to this idea of like, does social media have to protect kids when parents should be protecting kids? The other idea I've heard is, should kids even be on social media? Should social media be something that you consent to when you turn 18 and then you can get social media? Or should there be a kid's version of social media that doesn't have adult style content on it like that in the first place? I don't know. I've been curious about that as well, because I definitely think social media in the way that it is right now, with how powerful it is in society, can be very harmful to kids' mental health, emotional health, can be harmful to their interactions with others. So I don't know. What do you guys think? You guys think? At the same time, I don't want to say that kids shouldn't be on social media at all, because I know that, you know, while I wasn't on social media much as a kid, I've heard a lot of stories, especially about young kids in the LGBTQ community who don't have supportive families or who are living somewhere where it's not safe to be out about that, and online is the only place where they can find other people who are going through similar things to them and make friends that truly understand them. And that's also necessary for kids' mental health. That's why I'm thinking, like, should there be like a social media junior or something out there? Because I think putting kids and adults all on the same social media might be a mistake. But then again, I'm just spitballing here. I have no idea. I want to hear other people's solutions as well. And then we've got Mooncat. Dude, I love Mooncat. Shout out to Mooncat, who made the greatest video on the manosphere of all time. I love her work. Mooncat said he was way worse than stupid ideas. So you know what? I'm gonna give that tweet a like too. I actually like that tweet better than Coffeezilla's tweet. It's interesting seeing two of my faves interact and disagree on Twitter. What a trip, dude. He was way worse than stupid ideas. Okay, could we point to Andrew Tate inciting violence? Absolutely. But then it gets into this whole discussion of where do we officially draw the line of where violence is incited? See, again, this is gonna get way too philosophical. Okay. Wow, this person's rude. Some people are just being rude over here. And then it looks like people just say sexist things in response. I don't know if it's because Andrew Tate has fostered that kind of environment. I don't know, but I think Mooncat does bring up a good point that Andrew Tate wasn't just stupid ideas. He was actively causing harm to a lot of people, and sometimes for the sake of harm reduction, we need to put a stop to it now. I don't know. This is all very interesting to me. Let me know your guys' thoughts. I do, though, want to talk real quick. But in the midst of all of this mess, something definitively good has happened, and that is Andrew Tate shutting down his Hustlers University borderline MLM, borderline pyramid scheme type of company. So let's take a look at this real quick. I'm glad to see that the pyramid scheme is gone. Andrew Tate's Hustlers University subscription program has closed, The Guardian reported. The program helped Tate gain millions of followers, according to the outlet. That's what I've been saying. He gained it from this program because it was encouraging people to share his stuff in order to make commission. The Hustlers University affiliate marketing program, run by controversial influencer Andrew Tate, and that helped him amass a huge social following, has closed, The Guardian reported on Saturday. The program was part of Hustlers University, an online course that launched last year and promises to help Tate's followers who join earn thousands of dollars. Under the affiliate marketing program, members could earn commission by signing up new subscribers to the course and were encouraged to post videos of Tate to get as many referrals as possible, just like with an MLM. According to his website, Hustlers University is a community where dozens of war room soldiers learn to make money through access to stock analysis, options plays, crypto analysis, and more. Yeah, we talked about that in the other video. Tate used multi-level marketing-like tactics to encourage viewers to join and pay the $49 monthly fee. In June, Tate said the course had over 80,000 members, but Insider could not independently verify that number, and critics have called it a scam. I'm one of those critics. I too believe it was a scam. Instructions for members, which have since been deleted, include advice such as, what you ideally want is a mix of 60 to 70% fans and 40 to 30% haters. You want arguments, you want war. That feels like it's straight out of the book 48 Laws of Power. Make enemies. On Friday, Tate was banned from TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. A spokesperson from Meta told Insider that Tate violated policies around dangerous organizations and individuals, and that he also violated policies on hate speech. A TikTok spokesperson told Insider that his account was banned because misogyny is a hateful ideology that is not tolerated on TikTok, and said its investigation into this content is ongoing. Alright, so Andrew Tate has shut down the MLM scam. He has been banned from social media. All other concerns aside, dude, I think this is a good move. I think good things are coming for the fall of Andrew Tate because the dude is dangerous. Let's be real. There's lots of allegations about actual violence that he has potentially allegedly committed against women, which I'm not even going to go into right now because there's investigations are still going on. As far as I know, nothing has been definitively confirmed, so I don't want to report incorrectly on something. But regardless, the dude is dangerous. He's dangerous in whether or not he's doing actual violence. He's at the very least spreading a lot of violent and harmful ideas. And I think it has the potential to rot the brains of our youth. I don't want to sound like a boomer over here, but it really does. So what do you guys think about Andrew Tate being banned from a bunch of social media sites? Do you think that it's going to be a good thing for the future? I personally am pretty hopeful and optimistic about it because seeing the way that young teenage boys were looking at Andrew Tate and becoming misogynistic and how it was rotting their brains and teaching them these things that would be actively harmful to the women in their lives, and that could send them down an extremely dangerous path. You guys know misogyny and things like that can have a very strong cult-like influence on young people. I've considered doing a video on whether the red pill is a cult in the past. I might do it. I might do it at some point because I kind of think it is. But in any case, I think overall it is going to be a good move, and hopefully this will also encourage parents and teachers to have some of these conversations with students. And I don't know, maybe in the future we might want to see a form of restructuring on social media because the way it encourages kids to engage with content, even when it's not content like Andrew Tate's, the way it encourages teens and kids to engage with content can absolutely be harmful to their mental health and their development. So I'm definitely curious about your guys' thoughts on that. I'm also happy to see the MLM scheme is gone. So bye, Andrew Tate. You have tainted for the last time. Hopefully he doesn't come back stronger. That's the only thing I'm scared of. In any case, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope we can all celebrate the downfall of Andrew Tate together. I'll see you again later this week. In the meantime, keep on supporting small businesses and have a fantastic start to your week, unless you're Andrew Tate. Bye!
Get you some nuts.
There was lots of memes.
Makes me wonder if I should take up lesbianism.
Chicago.
You guys asked for it.